Welcome to this explainer of the Ultimate Jam Session Toolkit. We're pulling this material directly from some of the absolute top saxophone methods out there. Today, we're talking about a massive and honestly super exciting leap that every beginner alto sax player eventually has to take. I'm talking about stepping out of that lonely practice room and actually getting up on stage. We're going to leave the basic mechanics behind today and focus purely on those essential ensemble skills. Because, if you've just been working on your scales alone in a room, well, it's time to translate all that hard work into real, live, collaborative music.
So I really have to ask you right off the bat, are you truly ready for your first jam session? Like, are you prepared to stop playing in a total vacuum and start collaborating, projecting, and really blending with a live band? It takes a very specific set of skills to make that transition smoothly, and that is exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for building your toolkit. We'll hit projecting over the band, blending your ensemble tone, strategic jazz accents, mastering ghosted notes, and finally, ditching the sheet music.
Starting right off with Section 1, projecting over the band and mastering the three-part yogic breath.
Look, before you can add any cool stylistic flair to your playing, you absolutely must be heard. You're going to be competing with heavy-hitting drummers and brass players who are just blasting away. If you don't have the air support, your greatest musical ideas are just going to get completely buried. So, to get that massive, room-filling sound, we look to saxophone legend David Liebman's concept of the complete yogic breath. It's actually a structured three-part physical process. Step 1. You extend the diaphragmatic floor downward, really expanding that abdomen. Step 2, you expand the chest cavity, the thoracic area, outward. And then step 3, you move the top of the chest cavity, right around the collarbone area, upward. When you combine all three of those into one fluid motion, you maximize your air capacity so you can truly project over the band. What's really helpful here is how David Liebman conceptualizes this airstream. He thinks of it as a literal wave. Initially, the air descends deep down into the abdominal area below the rib cage, right? And then proper expansion allows that air to ascend back up through the diaphragm, the lungs, and the clavicle. Once you get this wave motion down, you can start thinking of your breath as these powerful puffs of air measured in various intensities that are dictated entirely by the music you're playing. Moving on to Section 2, blending your ensemble tone by perfecting your embouchure.
So volume is great, but volume is literally nothing if your tone clashes with everyone else. Your sound needs to actually fit in and blend nicely with the rest of the ensemble. And that all comes down to your embouchure, which is basically everything going on with your mouth when you're playing. Think about the physics of this for just a second. If you play the note A, your reed is opening and closing against the mouthpiece 440 times per second, 440 vibrations every single second. Your embouchure, and specifically your bottom lip, acts as this incredibly crucial cushion that controls all that insanely fast vibration.
Getting all these physical variables working together is an absolute must. First, you have to find the right amount of mouthpiece to actually put in your mouth. Too little and your sound is going to be thin and completely uncontrolled. Also, your bottom lip needs to be fleshy but firm. Now here is a major mistake beginners make all the time. They pull the corners of their mouth back into a smile. Don't smile. Seriously, you want to bring the corners in to create a circle of support. You also need to regulate your jaw pressure so you don't bite down and choke the reed. Finally, just make sure your jaw alignment is even, maybe slightly pushing the lower jaw forward if you naturally have an overbite. And that is exactly how you sculpt a tone that blends beautifully on stage.
All right, part 3. Strategic jazz accents. This is where we start adding flavor and swing.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it illustrates the internal mechanics of articulation. We've got the volume, we've got the tone, but to shift from basic mechanics to actual stylistic flavor, we have to look inside the mouth. Visualizing your tongue positions shows that for jazz, maximum flexibility is found in the E position. It provides this highly advantageous, totally neutral starting point. When your tongue assumes that E hump, the direction and velocity of the air in your oral cavity is absolutely maximized, giving you the best possible control over your attacks.
And this level of control matters immensely, because in jazz, the intensity and placement of your accents entirely dictate how you swing. It is not just about playing the right notes, it's all about how you attack them. Throwing in strategic accents, varying your articulation from light to heavy, that is exactly what defines a saxophonist's personal, unique style when they step onto a live stage.
Which brings us to Section 4, mastering ghosted notes, the absolute secret to that cool, swallowed sound.
Okay, if you want a beginner-friendly way to sound like a seasoned pro almost instantly, you need to learn how to ghost a note. David Liedman describes a ghost note beautifully. He calls it a note which seems to disappear in the midst of a melodic line, as if it had been swallowed. Just imagine that subtle, really smooth effect where the pitch is technically still there, but the dynamic drops drastically. It adds this incredible rhythmic texture and character to your phrasing that just screams jazz.
Now, when you're reading a jazz chart, you're going to instantly recognize when to deploy this swallowed sound effect, because ghosted notes are almost always enclosed in parentheses. That visual cue tells you to play that particular pitch with very light tonguing and a much softer dynamic relative to all the surrounding notes.
But how do you actually do it? Well, here is the mechanical trick straight from saxophonist Robert Hartig, and it's a real game changer. To ghost and note, you don't just blow softer. Nope, you actually apply your tongue to only one corner or one side of the reed. While you keep your airflow moving, you are effectively dampening just a tiny part of the reed, allowing the rest of it to keep vibrating. It's this brilliant, simple little tongue placement trick that instantly adds so much character to a phrase.
Finally, Section 5, ditching the sheet music and stepping into total freedom.
This right here is the final phase of a musician's journey into the jam session. Look, when you just read notes, you're permanently tied to the paper. It's mechanical execution, and honestly, you're visually distracted from the musicians around you. But transitioning to playing by ear, which is a core philosophy championed by Jay Metcalf, that is the ultimate goal for live performance. When you play by ear, you are reacting to the band in real time. It unlocks true, authentic musical expression and instant gratification. You weren't just playing alongside a band anymore, you are finally playing with them.
So, it's time to step away from the music stand. You've got the toolkit now. You have the 3-part breath to project your sound, you've got the firm embosher to blend seamlessly, the EE tongue position for those killer accents, and that slick dampening trick for ghosted notes. The mechanical tools are all there. Now you just need to trust your ears. Listen to what the rhythm section is actually doing, react to it, and just play freely.
We have covered a lot of ground today, navigating that huge transition from the strict mechanics of the practice room to the totally expressive freedom of a live performance. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Are you ready to bring your own personal sound to the stage? The tools are literally in your hands. The band is waiting for you. So what are you going to play?